Do 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 do. And now, Ian Zev's Life with your host, Ian Zev. Writing stuff like crazy here, because it worked for Jon Stewart, so maybe it'll work for me. I don't know, I just thought it. Why not, right? We're talking about the RNC. Welcome to Guys, Gals, Non-Binary Pals. Thought I'd throw it back in there. A throwback. I'm happy you're here, unless you're going through a challenge in life. Then I ask you stop watching this video and dial 988, which is like the 911 for mental health in the U.S. And yeah, we're going to talk about the RNC. Now, I waited a week, and people said, you just want to see what the media is going to say and regurgitate it. They were half right. Yeah, I wanted to see what the reaction was. We're not going to be talking about Biden dropping out and Harris said, we're talking about the RNC today. And tomorrow, we're going to talk about Biden-Harris and the state of the election. But this is solely RNC. So, when I was going to make this video, I had to make a decision. And that decision was, do I do it as Ian, the political scientist, and try to be as neutral as possible? Or do I do it as Ian, the Democrat, and give my opinions on stuff that I saw there with an edge of my personal beliefs? And I decided, and then I looked, what's the name of the station? Ian Zev's Life. You could just watch what happened. So, I'm going to be going through, obviously, I won't be going through every speaker, although I watched the entire thing. But we'd be here all night. And I'm going to talk about how it was just ludicrous, but look, see, politics, Trump, JFK Jr., 2021. It's my politics shirt. So, it was the convention. And started off in the morning. Everyone knew that the vice presidential nominee was going to be announced that day. So we were like on watch. And it was it was down to Marco Rubio, who's just your regular old school Republican. So, I mean, he could save the Republican Party, and maybe this MAGA stuff would go away. So I didn't think Trump was going to choose him. And then there was Burgum, the Doug Burgum. Now, this guy has street cred in my eyes because on the day of the first Republican debate, no one knew who he was. I don't want to advertise Trump during my whole thing. No one knew who he was. He went and played a game of pickup basketball in the morning, tore his Achilles. Now, being a fan of professional wrestling, I know that's a serious injury, and was still at the debate that night. And J.D. Vance, who I knew nothing about, and I wish I still knew nothing about. But now I know plenty. So it was between those three. And I had a feeling he was going to go with Vance just because I didn't know what Vance's negatives were. Had I known what Vance's negatives were, I probably would have chosen Basketball Dude and been wrong. But, so, J.D. Vance is announced as Trump's VP. And we're going to get into J.D. Vance, but he's like another Trump. Like, He even kind of looks like him. Like if they were making a movie about Donald Trump in his youth. After, he would have to shave the beard, but he could play him. And he has, conveniently, aligned his beliefs with Trump's. Wasn't always that way, though. I recall in 2016, he compared Trump to somebody. Hitler! So, the convention begins, and they start doing the roll call, which is to count the delegates and see who gets the nomination. We knew it was going to be Trump. All the other candidates had handed over their delegates. But for some reason, Trump hit the threshold in Florida, which is where he lives. And Eric Trump was able to announce that. I wonder if that was planned. I don't know. Yeah, it was planned. Oh, just a little thing. I knew it wasn't going to be Rubio, too, because he's from Florida. Trump's from Florida. 12th Amendment. Two people from the same state can't be on a ticket. So either Trump would have to either reestablish a residency in New York, which Trump's not going to be the one to have to be inconvenienced. So Rubio would have had to resign from the Senate, which I would have had no problem with. So maybe for like a few weeks before DeSantis would appoint another craphead, we could have a higher advantage in the Senate, we being the Democrats. So, okay, a few observations before I go through my little analysis, my play-by-play, if I can find it. Here we go. Okay. 2 days before, there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And I am very happy that he was okay. I don't believe in violence under any circumstances. But this they were making this argument that it changed him, that it made him want to be a uniter, that, this is the guy they want now. He got shot, in the ear, and he had this big white bandage on his ear. I'm not a doctor, maybe he needed it, but it looked like a little bit of overkill. But that he was changed. Okay. See if that bears out. Hint, it didn't. They said he rewrote his speech. No, he didn't. He didn't write his speech. He had a speechwriter write it. And they said that God was looking after Donald Trump, so he would move his head at a certain time and not get, sadly killed. Really? So where was God for Corey Compantore? I hope I pronounced that right. Who was a firefighter? I believe he was a fire captain who was shielding his family. God thought, yeah, it's time for him to go. So every time someone said God was watching over Trump, I was thinking, I wonder how Corey Compantore would feel about someone saying that. I also thought about the other two people who were injured but not fatally, and they're doing good. Both of them worse than Trump, though. And their names are David Dutch and James Copenhaver. So I'm going to repeat those names. 3 other victims One died, two were injured. James Compantore, rest in peace. David Dutch, James Copenhaver. I guess God, didn't really care about them that much. But Trump, he made move his head. It's so silly. And a changed man. But you were, okay, if he's changed, shouldn't that be a bad thing? Because you were about to go into a convention with old Trump. So if you're saying he's changed, you were about to go support the non-changed version. You can't like the changed version and the non-changed version. And no one's pointing that out. And then, for just a little observation, it was going to be all about unity. But multiple times during the evening, the 4 evenings, chants of fight, fight, fight broke out. That doesn't sound very unifying to me. It just doesn't. If I see people chanting fight, 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 I don't think there's a unifier. They lie. They lie. So I had to endure a lot of country music over these 4 days. So just some highlights from night 1, okay? In no specific order. First, this is where they just try to get people who have earned the right to speak out of the way without giving them a primetime spot. So this is where they got, they got rid of, Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson, Senator Katie Britt, Senator Tim Scott. Watching him kiss the ring. Where'd his girlfriend go, by the way? Glenn Youngkin, Governor Kristi Noem, who I really think would have been the vice presidential choice had she not admitted to shooting a dog and killing a dog in a book. Oh well. I really think it would be a Trump Noem ticket. But she destroyed herself because that's what she did. Charlie Kirk spoke. Marsha Blackburn. I want to talk about 2 interesting speakers. First was Amber Rose. I really liked her speech. I don't know what the hell that speech was doing at the RNC, because she is known for sex positivity. She's known for just being very open about everything. Very strong LGBTQ supporter. So am I. But I'm not speaking at the RNC. It just didn't make sense to me. And of course, back in 2016, she said he was a monster and shouldn't be president. A lot of people said stuff about him in 2016. But then, to my surprise, Sean O'Brien spoke. Now, Sean O'Brien is head of the Teamsters Union. You may remember a few months ago, Senator Mark Mullen, I believe, almost got into a fist fight on the congressional floor with Sean O'Brien. And now he's speaking at the RNC, talking about unions, helping the middle class. taxing the rich higher. Again, great speech, wrong audience. But he says they haven't decided, the Teamsters Union haven't decided who to endorse yet. And God, I'll be shocked if it's Trump, if it's the RNC. I was shocked he spoke there. Like, that's not the Republican platform at all. Being like pro-union enough to bring the president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters there. It just confused me. Why was he there? That was a DNC speech. That was him and Amber Rose. That was like when Ron Reagan spoke at the 2004 Democratic Convention. It's like, what's he doing here? A Reagan at the DNC? So, but I liked everything he said. Just wrong audience. And it's not like the Republicans would do any of it. What's his name spoke? Hold on. Byron Donalds talked in veiled racist terms. You know, he's playing the part of the racist minority. And so, but then was the introduction of Trump. Now, this is why I watched it on the media, because they observed something that I didn't. They said he looked changed. Now, I saw various stations, CBS, NBC. He just looked like regular Trump walking down an aisle to a booth. Didn't look any different to me other than the bandage on his ear. What I did find interesting was who was in that booth and who wasn't. J.D. Vance was in there. Eric Trump was in the booth. Don Jr., which he shook their hands. I don't know, but when I see my dad, I give him a hug. But I don't think I've ever shaken my dad's hand. Ever. I see him, I give him a hug. That's how that's how you build Trump up. Not shaking his hands of his sons. Lara Trump was there in that booth. Kimberly Guilfoyle was there. And Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. And some people I didn't recognize. And that was night one. So night one, they just got some of the dirt out of the way. We know who the vice presidential nominee is. The reason I said they could have easily just nominated Trump by acclamation is because they made Vance the VP nominee by acclamation. Which, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Democrats do that too with the VP. They do the roll call for the president, and then the VP, they're like, we don't want to do this again. So they say, Mr. or Miss Chairperson, I propose we suspend the rules and by acclamation. And yeah, that's just how it goes. So Trump could have gotten it by acclamation. Saved me a little time. But also, another thing I want to point out is there was a 100-year-long tradition, maybe even longer, that the nominee doesn't show up until the last night. I remember the 2004 Republican convention, George W. Bush showed up on the screen. He was in Texas at the time. And I even thought that was like, really? Because, like, in the past, the nominee doesn't appear until the last night. But I guess when you have Trump as your nominee 3 times in a row, you can just throw that tradition behind you. So, every night had a theme to it. RNC themes. So, night 1. Okay, here we go. I knew I was forgetting something when I was doing my research. And I did a lot. So, who's speaking? The overall theme was unity, which then they would yell, fight, fight, fight. But they were all like, make America something again. Make America again. I'm just going to put again RNC convention, because I do think these are important, that you know these. Okay. Theme 2024, night 1. Make America wealthy once again. Now, what? See, that's a little weird, because the economy, other than today specifically, but you don't judge it by one day, is doing great. Biden has just done a really bad job at marketing that. So, and also they had Marjorie Taylor Greene speak. That's what makes the Republican Party a joke, really. Like, who on the planet thinks that person who harassed school shooting victims should speak at the Republican National Convention? She's an evil person. She is an evil person and not intelligent. So she spoke too. She's like a caricature of the girl you hate in high school, but a caricature of that. So even more extreme. Okay, so yeah, see PBS. Trump makes emotional entrance. No, he did. He just walked up there. Who was not there, though? There was no Ivanka, no Jared. Tiffany was there. No Barron, no Melania. Wonder how that marriage is doing. Okay, and of course, everyone lied. Lie. You know, if I listed all the lies, I don't think YouTube has the bandwidth. Okay. If you're wondering why I'm looking at my phone occasionally, it's because I have a surprise for you tomorrow, actually. So, let's move to night 2. Night 2 of the RNC. And let's see what their Make America safe once again. We're a lot safer now than we were when Trump was president. Remember, like, those riots and stuff? Yeah, those were that Trump used in his campaign ads 4 years ago that happened during his administration. Yeah. So, okay. So, but it's Make America Safe again. And they lied about the crime rates. Crime is at a historic low. But the nominee is a convicted felon, so don't know if that's that big of a deal to them. Yeah, I said it. Convicted felon. hasn't even been sentenced yet. What is this country coming to? But day two, I call Make America Wrathful Again. Because this is where Trump got people to kiss the ring. They started it off with one of my least favorite people, Kari Lake, who I believe is going to hand the Democrats the election. Well, at least Arizona. I haven't made a prediction about the election yet. So Kari Lake talked about her dumb Kari Lake stuff. Like, I really zoned out on a lot of it. And they were interviewing people during the, I guess, non-important people, like Mike Rogers, Dave McCormick, Jim Banks. So they interviewed Rick Scott, who said, Trump, changed man. Yeah, okay. This is a unity. Gets up there and blames Joe Biden for the assassination attempt. No. You know who's at fault for the assassination attempt? A mentally ill, bullied 20-year-old. That's who's at fault. This was no conspiracy. I don't fall into any of those groups. It was that one kid. That's it. But they like to change it to, it's this whole big thing that Biden was trying to kill him. Although, with what the Supreme Court ruled, maybe he could, but Biden's a good man and he wouldn't. So, Rick Scott, unity, when he's talking on the side with Hannity, gets up there. They're awful. The Democrats are trying to kill Trump. Oh, shut up. Then you had Elise Stefanik saying her dumb stuff. I think it was Tom Emmer who brought his dog. So he gets a little point for that. Not a lot, because he was saying some crazy Republican stuff, but it was a nice looking dog. But it was really awkward when he says, I know you all want to see my little friend here. And on TV, we didn't see the dog yet. So we had no idea what the hell he was talking about. And it sounded like he was talking about his, and describing it as his little friend. And then when we saw the dog, it was a cute moment. Then, then Steve Scalise and Mike Johnson spoke, said nothing. Then Vivek got up there, and this is where the revenge tour, this is where he put this. I mean, Trump doesn't really like Vivek. He pretends to, because Vivek has his head up Trump's ass all the time. But on the other hand, Vivek's brown. Trump doesn't like brown people. So Vivek is just being used as a useful idiot. So he had him speak, and just the praises of Trump. But then he got the real revenge in. When Nikki Haley, former ambassador to the United Nations, former governor of South Carolina, got in there and spoke. She ran again. She was the final one in the primaries against Trump. She said they have so many clips of her saying he's not fit for office. He's mentally ill. Like, just saying awful things. And she just totally gave up all her morals and endorse and Did she say I passionately, there was some adjective in front of it, endorse him? After months of just talking crap, at least Chris Christie, who I don't agree with politically, and I think he's done some nasty things, is standing by his guns and, no, I didn't say guns, standing by his laurels, saying Trump is a danger to democracy in this country. But Nikki, and she was, you could just see her in her face, just, I hate myself, but this is what I have to do to stay relevant. I hate myself. So she spoke for 6 minutes, and then DeSantis spoke. And you remember like a year and a half ago, people actually thought DeSantis might get the nomination over Trump. And then Trump called him Meatball Ron, and his numbers fell like 30 points. Well, he got up there and kissed the ring for about 19 minutes. And I will say, though, he wins the award for best tan of the convention. He even better than Trump's orange nonsense he puts on his face. DeSantis' tan, on point. If I could get a tan like that, in a second. Then they had, some very sad speakers who had family members who were killed by elite, non-documented people in the U.S. And I was sympathetic to them. Losing somebody by way of violence, I don't care where you stand politically. There's no pleasure in that. I take no pleasure in hearing that. I mean, the connection is a little shaky to Biden, but they're not political people. And I really felt bad. But then when they added to their list Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who I feel zero bad for because she says I'm also a victim. They spit on my car. Keep in mind, the people before her were just talking about their daughters being raped and murdered, and she's saying that's equal to her getting her car spit on. They're so out of touch with reality. And then, she said someone said something nasty to her at a restaurant. People say nasty stuff to me all the time. Oh, well. It really gave me the feeling that she was disrespecting the people before her. And she has her own little scandal going on in Arkansas. Maybe I'll do a video on that. Then Ben Carson got up there and took a nap for about 13 minutes. And then co-chair Lara Trump closed it out. Again, no Ivanka, no Jared, no Barron, no Melania. Okay, so they were going to we're going to make America safe again. Trump was in his same booth with that large bandage on his ear. He may need that large of a bandage, so, I mean, I'm all big on crapping on people, but only when it's worthy. But there were two things that happened during day 2. First off, in the morning, Rudy Giuliani fell over the chairs drunk. There was no one in the chairs because it was the morning. And so he wasn't safe. And while someone was interviewing former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Matt Gaetz came up to him. He's like, when are you speaking? When are you speaking? They'll boo you off stage. And I almost thought they would get into a fist fight. Doesn't sound very safe to me. Doesn't sound very safe to me. But, okay. Night 2 in the books. Let's go into 3. Okay? By the way, throughout all this stuff, they have, like, patriotic videos going on. This night 3 was, let's see, Make America Strong once again. We're the powerhouse of the world right now. We're about to lose that. I mean, if Trump gets elected, we'll all but lose that. But we're the strongest country in the world right now. So, I don't know when you want to go back to, because we were weaker then. Because we're the strongest now. So that may... But, this night was going to be all about J.D. Vance. However, they had to get some things out of the way first. And those speakers were... and they're so organized, but whenever I go to refer to it, it's like all the organization I put together went away. Oh, well, okay, well, Matt Gaetz, the guy who almost got into a fight the day before, he spoke, and he looked really weird. I don't know how to describe it without flat out plagiarizing, but just, he didn't look... Matt Gaetz is naturally a weird looking dude. He looks like the Joker without makeup, but he looked even weirder. But they had Peter Navarro speak. You know where Peter Navarro woke up that morning? In Miami. In prison. Jail, probably. So, they took a criminal straight from jail and gave him a speaking commitment at the RNC. What? Talking about how the Biden administration came after him. And if they can come after him, they're going to come after you. Blah, 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 blah. No. The Biden administration had nothing to do with him going to jail. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison. Oh, it was prison. For his refusal to comply with a subpoena from the House Select Committee that was investigating January 6th. That's the legislative branch. The president's the executive branch. And going to jail, that's the judicial branch. So, like, Biden's the only branch that wasn't involved. It was the executive. And if I were to get a subpoena to appear before Congress and didn't show up, I'd go to jail. So the fact that they had this guy who literally got out of jail hours earlier speak about how if they can come for him, once again, they, well, it's they. I assume he means the Biden DOJ, Department of Justice. But no, you broke the law, buddy. And you appealed it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they wanted nothing to do with it. You know? Even Neil Gorsuch said, go away. So, like, he tried everything he could to not go to jail and still not have to honor the subpoena. Well, sadly, he couldn't do both of those. So, he had to go to prison for 4 months. But for some reason, that's Biden's fault. And they're coming after, and if they can come after him, they can come after you, and will. Nonsense. Biden had nothing to do with it. He probably doesn't even know who you are. So he gave a speech where he just yelled about a bunch of stuff and nonsense. I was just shocked that they would have someone from jail speak at the convention. Like, really? Where you're talking about, you're the party of law and order, the person on the top of your ticket's a convicted felon, you're bringing people straight from prison to speak. You're kind of losing some credibility on the law and order thing there, Republicans. I shouldn't even call them Republicans anymore. Because Republicans like Mitt Romney, Kasich, Portman, those are all people I disagree with on just about everything. But they're decent people. They're good people. So, and back in the day when I was less mature, I don't think I'm that mature now, I would mock them. And it was uncalled for. So I would like to publicly apologize to John McCain, who has passed away, and Mitt Romney, because when they ran, I talked a lot of crap about them personally, and I should not have, because they're good people who I just disagree with. We're allowed to disagree, but we shouldn't hate or act hatred. I'll be the first one to say, that Corey Compratore is dead because of the tone that Trump set in America. The assassination attempt occurred because of the tone set by Trump. I said it. Okay, night 3. So, we're still on night 3. We had Gates, Abbott spoke, Doug Burgum, Achilles. And now we have the part of it that I had to turn off. I watched the whole convention except the first 2 minutes of this person's speech. Not because of what they were saying, but because their voice was too piercing. I couldn't do it. And that would be Kimberly Guilfoyle. I just couldn't deal with her voice. It was really like just hammers in my ears. So I muted it. I wasn't going to be able to comprehend the content because the voice was just, oh boy. Then was actually my favorite part of the convention. And if they did like this, more of this every night, it would have been so much better. Kai Trump, who is Donald Trump's granddaughter, spoke about how she loves her grandfather and talked about him on a personal level. Guess what? Little secret. My grandfather was a convicted felon, but I loved him. He's passed away. And I'll always talk good about him because he's my grandfather. That was the best part of the convention. They should have had a Trump grandchild speak every night. Just about not about politics, just about the fact that he has a heart that no one thinks he has. I mean, I don't think he has one. I think he probably fakes it with his grandchildren, or tries to get rid of them as quickly as possible. Yeah. Or potentially she was just handed a script and said, read this. Either way, it came off compassionate And for like a minute, I forgot that I was actually watching the hate monger convention. So that was brilliant. What's not brilliant is the fact that was only 5 minutes out of the whole convention. That should have been half of the convention. Then Donald Trump Jr. talked about nothing. And then Usha Vance, the wife of Senator J.D. Vance, vice presidential nominee, came out to introduce her husband. And I saw a meme, which I'll describe, which has her speaking because she's the daughter of immigrants. She is a firstborn U.S. citizen, all holding signs saying mass deportation. Now, I know her, her parents came here legally. It was just the symbolism behind it. I found quite, like, you're on the wrong side. You're on the wrong side. But, she talked about how he's a good father, trustworthy. What you would expect a wife to say about her husband, who she's about to introduce to the world. Then it was the time. J.D. Vance, who's younger than me. Oh, God. Beard and all. Sucking up to Trump. I wonder if he's going to have to shave the beard. Because when you brown nose someone that much, I wonder if that's why Trump doesn't like beards. He doesn't like hair around his butt. Because all these people, men, brown nose him. But he just sort of went through the Trump agenda. But I'm going to have a whole thing on J.D. Vance. But the guy is crazy. I mean, he talked like a human. So I guess I'll give him a 1 out of 10. Because he didn't seem like a monster. But if you know anything about him, he is. But he was able to not seem like a monster for his 20-minute speech. So, good. Now the last night. And what was our theme for this one? This is where Trump was going to speak. Make America great once again. What? So I guess what they were implying, although no one directly said it, was America was great when Trump was president, other than the hundreds of thousands of people who died of COVID, and the wealth inequality and everything. Pretty much everything he did was wrong. But other than that, it was great. And we want to go back to that. And I just got to talk about a few of the speakers here because it brought me back. It brought me back to my childhood. Can you believe that? And then I'm like, maybe this all is predetermined. And I'll say, you'll understand why I just used the word predetermined. Okay. So, a first speaker who's really not noticed. She wasn't the first, but that was Linda McMahon. I say that because I'm a wrestling fan. And she is aged. And she had on what looked like a pound of makeup. More than Guilfoyle. I mean, I remember watching Linda get a stone cold stunner back in the day. I remember faking sick in high school because the whole McMahon family was in a wrestling angle together. I knew who she was. And she was an advisor to Trump of the Small Business Bureau or Association because she used to be CEO of the WWE. Now, no one pointed out that under her watch there was rampant sexual abuse, there was rampant drug use, but no, she's good. Come on down. I think the and that her husband, I think they're estranged, but they're married, is getting sued for grooming a young lady, and one of the details in that is pooping on her. So, for some reason, none of that came up. And then a bunch of people I didn't care about. And then Hulk Hogan. I was a Hulkamaniac as a kid. I had the merchandise, I had the buddy. I'm handing in my card. I am no longer a Hulkamaniac. I don't know who I'm going to root for if I go into that time frame because they're all dead. But he gave a wrestling promo. But one thing I didn't like that he said is, I body slammed that disgusting giant. And he's talking about Andre the Giant, who's dead and everyone loved. So, well, not everyone, but, and he talked about the Macho Man. Like, I had to watch it twice. I'm not gonna lie, I watched the whole and he did the whole shirt pulling apart thing. But right at the end, he couldn't do it, and it was very funny. He couldn't finish it, and he just had to sort of swipe it with his hand because he couldn't fully rip his shirt off. So, haha. And you can see in his arms the years have not been that great to him. But it was a wrestling promo at the RNC. I remember 2004 RNC. I keep going back to the 2004. 2004 RNC, my college roommate and I, one of them, were in awe over the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger was speaking. Keep in mind, Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California. But we're like, wow, Arnold Schwarzenegger is speaking at a political convention. Well, now Hulk Hogan's tearing off his shirt and doing a complete wrestling promo, which is fun because I know that wrestling, not fake, predetermined, because it's not real. What the moves they do are real, but the results are not. Now it's not funny because it's real and it's our way of life. So context is king. And also, he said that Donald Trump watched him win the championship bleeding. And I want to, from the head, that was WrestleMania 5 against the Macho Man. Hogan didn't bleed. Liar. Trump, at this point, leaves his booth. Then Melania arrives. Not weird. She arrived at a time where she wouldn't have to interact with him then, at that very moment. Okay, and Ivanka and Jared were there. No Barron, though. He wasn't there through the whole convention. I don't know why, and I'm not going to speculate. So then, to introduce Donald Trump for the third time in a row, Ivanka Trump. Of course, I'm joking. She was still in the booth. So, Trump found the best possible person to introduce him. Dana White, president and CEO of the UFC, which is really TKO Sports. And the reason he has both titles is because Vince McMahon had to give up his and leave the company because of the sex scandal. But they didn't bring that up. And of course, he's like, I'm a real man, and that's a real man. Like, I'm not a member of the LGBTQ community, but I am a supporter of them. I was almost like, is he going anti-LGBTQ here? Because I mean, I know I don't know him personally, but I've been following Dana White for a while, and I thought he was a cool guy before he entered like politics. Same way I feel about Joe Rogan. I thought he was a cool guy until he threw his name, until he started getting political. Then he started to suck. Now takeaways. Now Trump. Then now, just in case you didn't know who it was. Right in the background, in bright lights, spelled out Trump. Just in case you forgot. You know. And Trump walks out. Not looking like the media portrayed he did a few days earlier, but defiant. And he went on to ramble for an hour and a half. I'm going to give you just a few things, just a few key points, because I can't believe I watched that. Trust me, it was. If you're debating watching Trump's 90-minute speech, I suggest you don't. So, he started talking about the assassination attempt and saying it's only by the grace of God, only by the grace of God. Trump's not a God guy, and we know this. It'd be like me saying by the grace of God. It's just so ingenuous and genuine. Where was God for Corey Compratore? Stop it. You're not a God person, Trump. That's why you chose Pence in 2016. I mean, okay, so, but he sounded like he was, going to be unifying. And then we hit about the 10-minute mark. And we got another rambling, nonsense Trump speech talking about stolen elections, firing the United Auto Workers. I'm sure the team, Sean O'Brien, loved hearing that. Called the coronavirus the China virus. Talked about an invasion in the southern border. He called a Democratic senator whose name I couldn't get a total lightweight. And then compared him to the late, great Hannibal Lecter. Let's decipher this. First off, Hannibal Lecter is fiction, and he was a cannibal who was a therapist and ate his patients, but in every iteration of Hannibal Lecter, whether it be a book, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal the movie, Hannibal the TV show, the character never died. So why would he call him the late great? Because he didn't die. He didn't even fictionally die. Maybe because there's no movie being made about that character right now? I don't know. It was just on. It was weird. And it really just was your regular Trump speech after that. It's just, there's really not, I mean, you watch one Trump speech, you've watched them all. You know, we talked about him. Nancy Pelosi didn't ask him for help and lie, lie, lie. I think he told one lie every minute and 28 seconds. Lies Trump told during RNC 2024. Well, all of the lies Trump told. Well, I can't give you all of them, but here's some of the most brazen ones. Okay? And keep in mind, he did get shot the previous Saturday, but guess what? That doesn't change the fact that he's a threat to democracy. And I don't wish him dead, I just don't wish him in the White House. He talked about how no wars under him. Afghanistan happened during him. Like it happened the whole time. He talked about the fact that Biden removed sanctions that he didn't even remove. And then he talked about the love letters between him and Kim Jong-un. He distorted the Afghanistan withdrawal, which Biden did get done. He said that he had negotiated a great plan. Well, Biden used your plan. So, just saying. And he kept building an iron dome over this country. I mean, but it sounded like, because he was doing this, like he's going to build an actual iron dome over America? I mean, an iron dome, well, let's just see how iron dome is defined, but I don't think he knows what it is. I think he actually thinks it's an actual dome when it's actually a way to intercept and destroy short-range missiles and rockets. But I don't even think he knew that. I think he actually thought of building a dome around the U.S. He's really not that smart. Then, when he finished, after an hour and a half that felt like 20 years, the family came up. And Ivanka and Jared were there, but on the corner. And the balloons dropped, RNC over. I just, one positive observation is it was very well organized. I compare it to the RNC in 2016, because you can't really compare it to the one in 2020 because of COVID restrictions. But 2020 didn't seem unified. 2016 did not seem unified. And by unified, I don't mean the country, I mean the Republican Party. That was not the case here. They were very unified, and it was very organized. And as someone who's been on committees that have put on events, multiple day events like this, taking out the words they were saying and just looking at it from an organizational standpoint, they did a good job. Until you turn the mute button off and you start listening to the words coming out of their mouth. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that Trump got shot. But that doesn't change the fact that he's a threat to democracy. that he tried to put in fake electors, that he's a convicted felon. I told you I loved my grandfather. I don't think he should have ever been president, though. I really wonder how many of them know they're full of crap and are just going along with the ride because it's the ride to wave. Like Tucker Carlson, he spoke that night too. We know he hates Trump. It's on audio tape. But he's riding the wave. Nikki Haley, riding the wave. J.D. Vance, got to be the vice presidential nominee. He compared him to Hitler. So, for organization and preparation, I give them a 8.5 because I think they did very good, but there were a few things they could have changed. Like they could have had less country songs. That was one thing that annoyed me. It was like speaker's country song. Like you didn't need that many. We get it. And for quality of their words, I'll give them a 1.5. Because he had a few people say a few things I agreed with, like Sean O'Brien, Amber Rose. And watching Rudy fall was funny. I know that's not speaking, but he was speaking through his body. So that's the 2024 RNC. I will be talking about on Friday the state of the election and all the changes. But tomorrow I have a special guest, actually. My friend Gemma Jade, who we're not going to talk politics. We don't really get into politics, but she believes in the abnormal and the dead walking the earth, and I don't. I'm an atheist. So but she's a good friend of mine, and we're going to have a conversation about it. And maybe some other things will come up. Who knows? But tomorrow's going to be special because I think what she definitely does believe it. It's not an act. I think it's just, I'm trying to be respectful because I respect her. Not real. And she thinks I lead a sad life because I'm an atheist. So tomorrow's going to be interesting. 9 o'clock tomorrow. I'm actually giving you a time. 9 o'clock tomorrow. And on that note, you got your RNC 2024 coverage. And yeah. If no one told you they loved you today, I was going to say something witty, but I do. I love you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, night, and don't watch that 90-minute speech. You'll lose brain cells. Good night.